Hey, so CAPsMAN, but unlike the other videos on CAPsMAN, we're actually going to be running the CAPsMAN server on a separate MikroTik to our router. So previously I've done this where I've got everything, router and the CAPsMAN controller on a single device. Now I separated that out, so I'm using my hex as my CAPsMAN controller only, and I've got a HAP which I've introduced as my router. So this has the connection to my internet connection. I've added this additional VLAN, which is VLAN 40, which is going to be used for AP management. So this is what the management. So previously I had this all on VLAN 10. So management for my devices, including the access points, was sitting on VLAN 10. So I've changed that now. So VLAN 40 is going to handle only access point management. And then this is actually sitting, as you can see, this IP here is only sitting on VLAN 10. So it has no connection from a layer 2 standpoint to VLAN 40. The link between here and here is tagged VLAN 10 only. So the only communication, the only IP address that has on this device is this one, and it can only talk on that network. So obviously to get to all these other networks, it has to go via the router. So this would be, and this would work very much if this wasn't even a MikroTik. So if you've got another, network already set up with a different, in your routers, maybe in a firewall, can be anything. Because what the controller is doing is managing the access points and telling it which VLAN to put on which SSID, as well as telling the access point what SSIDs to use. So this is very much becomes a WLC only, if you're familiar with that term, the wireless LAN controller. So it means we can then just introduce MikroTik Wi-Fi to a non-MikroTik network. As you can see, I've already got a Cisco switch here. I could change this for a Cisco router, 40-gate firewall router, anything like that. And then I'll show you how we then tell the access points to talk to this. So I've got this section already set up, and I'll run through that now. But I'll go through configuring an access point from scratch, and then what I did in the other ones where I download that config and install it under here. Okay, so let's take a look now. So here's my hex. This is my CAPsMAN. As you can see, I've named it CAPsMAN, my controller. If I go to Wi-Fi, I've got my previous caps already from last time on here. But what I'll do is we'll go ahead and just remove those. Doesn't matter either way, but it's always just good to. And if you're ever adding and removing access points, just make sure that you've cleared out any access point certificates. Okay, they'll all start cap. We can keep the ones in here at the moment because these are the ones for the actual CAPsMAN service itself. So I've got it discoverable on VLAN 10, but we're not going to, this is a layer 2 discovery where we're not going to discover anything there. So we won't change anything there. And this is all pre-configured as before. So to find out how to do this step, just click on the link up here, and then there's a video for that. There's also in the description below. I'll make sure I link that as well. So that's my CAPsMAN server. But if we look at my IP addresses, you can see I've only got this one. And if I go to interfaces, I've got a single VLAN here configured, management only, layer 3 VLAN, single connection to my router. So it's a direct connection, but it's if we look at my bridge, you'll see that it's tagged. So VLAN 10 is tagged on that Ether 1 link to router. So that's the only VLANs we're talking about. That could be we don't even have to do a VLAN. We could just do a straight, connection. I could give the IP address to my LAN bridge if I wanted to, but I'm just keeping it, a bit consistent there with the using the VLANs as the actual layer 3 interfaces with the IP addresses. So that's all set up, ready to go. I'll show you now my router, which is my HAP. So it's an older model, HAP AC, but it works just as well as my router. if I go to interfaces here, so now this is the one that has those four now VLANs. It's got management, and it's got the two Wi-Fi ones, so Corp and Guest, and then my access point management. If we go to IP addresses, there you can see they're all configured there. I've dynamically got an IP address on port 5, which is my WAN, which is my development network, but that's basically my internet connection. So if I look at bridge, and you'll see under VLANs, I've got VLAN 10 is tagged on the port to my CAPsMAN controller. It's also tagged on the port to the switch. And then 20 and 30, I've got a separate one there for those because they're the access point, the SSID VLANs. And again, they're tagged only on the switch. And then 40 is tagged to the switch as well, which is my access point management. Okay, so this being the router is doing all the router functions of a router. So it's got the default gateways for each VLAN, for each network. It's also running the DHCP servers for each of those networks. Okay, and it'll be doing all the routing onwards to the internet. Okay, so because the traffic doesn't route via the CAPsMAN anymore, in previous versions of CAPsMAN it would have done by default. It would have it creates its own bespoke tunnel which would have routed all of its traffic via the CAPsMAN. However, that doesn't happen here. I did a video recently about using VLAN to do that, to achieve that. If you're interested in that, just click the link here. It's basically a way I got around of doing that, as tunneling basically the SSIDs directly to what was the CAPsMAN controller. But again, that could be doing it to the router as well, because it's if your router supports VLAN, but we won't get into that now. So yeah, that's pretty much everything to show you on there. So now if we open up Winbox, I'll show you there's one of my access points. There we go, there's two there. Both I've reset back to factory. And this is my Cisco switch, which I've just got a serial connection into. So I've got in ports 1 and 2. Show run interface gigabit 1 is just a trunk port, and it's currently on native 10. So because this PC I'm on as well is on VLAN 10, so just so I can get to it on the first instance for file layer 2, and then the same for that one. And my interface to my router 48 is just a trunk port, so just allowing all VLANs. Okay, and I've got each of those VLANs configured in the 10, 20, 30, 40 in the VLAN table. Okay, so what we can start with is our first one. So we'll go with this one because this is in port 1. So first thing we're going to do is have to set that password. Okay, close all these down. Okay, so we'll start with our networking side of it first. What we're going to do is create our bridge first things. And we're going to call that LAN bridge, like I've called all my other bridges. Could be anything. We're only going to have the one. Disable spanning tree on this one, and then we'll leave the VLAN filtering for now. Just leave that up here. Just apply it so it comes there. We're going to add in our interfaces, so ether 1, and then that's going to be tagged only. Actually, we'll accept. Yeah, tagged only. Okay, nothing will take effect until we actually enable it over here. Let's add our VLAN 40, which is our management, and we want that to be ether 1 tagged, and on our LAN bridge. So we'll always tag it on the LAN bridge, or the bridge, sorry, whatever you call it. Okay, and then we also need to tag our SSID VLANs on that interface, and they're going to be tagged on that port on the LAN bridge. Okay, there we go. So what we can do now is, before we do that actually, because we need to do our layer 3 interface. So go to interfaces, add our VLAN interface. So call that 40, and that's AP management. VLAN ID is 40, and that's going to be on the LAN bridge. We can add our DHCP client to that. So add AP management. Okay, yes to everything else. Now we can go ahead and enable our VLAN filtering. Apply. We're probably going to get kicked off the interface that we're on. There we go. What we can do is now jump on its IP address, which we can find out from our DHCP server. There it is, 151.251. And we can jump in 10.0.40.251. Okay, so we've got IP addresses. There we go. So we've got that IP address. Going to VLANs. That's one thing I forgot to do when I actually enabled VLAN filtering on a tagged only on the bridge itself. I'll just get rid of any dynamic ones now, except for, you'll see in a minute, except for the access point ones, which it does by default. Okay, so that's that done. Now we can go configure our Wi-Fi. So first thing we do is hit cap. Now normally in the old version, or if it's on the same network, sorry, you would select discovered interface and you would select the VLAN it's on, but because our CAPsMAN server isn't on here, we can just leave this one. But certificate, we're going to say request, and then this is where we're going to put in our CAPsMAN controller IP address. So that IP address I showed you at the beginning, which I can just show you here. Get rid of these extra windows. IP addresses. This is my CAPsMAN, my IP address. Okay, now we apply that. Okay, nothing's going to happen yet, because what we need to do is go into each one of these. We go manager CAPsMAN, and then manager CAPsMAN. Apply. There we go. So it's already picking up config from my CAPsMAN. If I go back into CAPsMAN, there we go. They've reappeared, the ones I deleted earlier. And there's my SSIDs and everything set up as I want it to. In here on the two main ones, I need to tell it which bridge to use. So I just go for under each one. I'll just go for LAN bridge, and then bridge, LAN bridge. Now if I look in the bridge, you'll see it's added these two dynamic ones, which are the SSID VLAN tags. Okay, the VLANs are assigned via the CAPsMAN controller under the data path for each configuration. We specify the VLANs in there, but you still need to actually add them onto the interface when you tag them there. Okay, now let's try and connect. Connected. Let's do IP config. There you go. So that's on the guest range, which I should see in here. Leases, there we go. So we just connected there. Okay. So we're up and running there. What we can now do is go to open up a terminal. Go export show sensitive file. Let's call this caps config, and then we'll call this remote for a remote WLC. Okay, then we go to file, You can see I've got quite a few in here, but the one I want is that one I just created. Download that. We'll stick it on the desktop. Okay. Now we can go ahead and jump on our other one, which will ask us for the password every time. We can go to Files, Upload, Desktop, wasn't it? And then that's the remote one. Now what we need to do is just go to System, Reset Configuration, no default configuration, but then Run After, and then we just select that script. Reset configuration, yes. Now that's going to do everything, so our VLANing and everything, so it should pick up a lease on here when it comes back online. And there we go. Here's our next one. Cancel. So now we can connect to it via its IP 40252. I won't have a password on it because it's reset. Okay, we can get a Wi-Fi, and there we are. It's already up and running. Go back to my CAPsMAN controller. There we are. There's my extra one. So that was all done without having to make any changes to the, apart from logging in and setting the password. Okay, simple as that. So yeah, I've probably missed a few steps that you may not maybe thinking, well, how did you do that? That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I've done lots of different videos all about this. I did probably the best one to check out initially is the sort of the complete end-to-end one I did, and that will get you to this state, and then you can then obviously I've done some ones where I go into more detail about the VLANing side of it, bits like that. So there's a whole, I'll put a link to the playlist at the in the description, so if you want to check the playlist out, and you should find all the videos in there you need. But yeah, sing out if you've got any specific requirement that you can't quite get your head around. So but yeah, thanks for watching, appreciate it, and if not, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.